What's up, my dudes, my dudettes, and wrestling colleagues of all kinds? This is Dan the Beast 94 coming back at you with another video. So, I decided to do my top 10 DVDs that any wrestling DVD collector should have in their collection, or should just pick up. Whether you find it at a good price, used, or there's a hot deal going on Amazon, eBay, FYE, and you just happen to find it at a reasonable price. I'd say pick it up. And these are just this is just my biased opinion on the DVDs that anybody should have. So let's get started. So, three of these are pay per views, the others are going to be compilations and documentaries. Well, actually, basically all documentaries. So, here we go. With the first pay per view, ECW One Night Stand. This was on June 12th, 2005. This was supposed to be the only one night stand for ECW. It was one of those ideas I believe Rob Van Dam pitched to Vince, and they declined at first, and then after that it was just like, okay, let's run with it, let's get all these guys back. And this was basically, I think, Paul Heyman's and RVD's idea. And unfortunately, Rob Van Dam wasn't able to compete that night because he was still out with a knee injury. But the card was stacked. You had Lance Storm versus Chris Jericho. Rey Mysterio taking on Psychosis. You had a three-way dance between Super Crazy, Tajiri, and Little Guido. Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit. Tommy Dreamer and Sandman versus Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley. But one of my favorite matches that they don't mention here in the back is Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. Mike Awesome, I tell you, he was probably one of the most underrated superstars of all time. And despite him having so much heat with ECW and specifically Joey Styles, the way Mike Awesome left and practically betrayed the promotion with leaving with the ECW title and bringing it onto WCW television. I mean, I could definitely understand that, but he was definitely one of the most underutilized guys when he went to WWE. I mean, he won the hardcore title, and sometime after that, during the Invasion storyline, he got injured. He came back mid 2002, but he was mainly booked on the B shows with Velocity and Heat, and I believe he asked for his release, and he was gone from them. But then he competed on this show, and then unfortunately 2 years later, he ended up taking his own life, which I don't really think they ever found out why. So, ECW, definitely a recommended pay-per-view for any fan, especially for ECW fans. And let's go on to number 2 here, which is the other One Night Stand from 2006. The only reason I would say grab this is for the 2 disc, because the second disc you get the Barely Legal pay-per-view from 97, and it definitely boosts your collection value, I would say, only because, I mean, there's some people who got the original copy of Barely Legal, but, what can you go wrong with 2 ECW pay-per-views, even though this isn't technically a ECW pay-per-view hosted by WWE. But this was still a good show. Tommy Dreamer, Terry Funk taking on Mick Foley and Edge. That was great. Um, the Angle Orton match shouldn't have happened. Rey Mysterio and Sabu for the world title. That was pretty decent. John Cena versus RVD. RVD becoming the WWE Championship and then later awarded the ECW Championship once they launched it as a brand, which that still should have never happened. If they would have called it anything else, that would have been fine. But having a brand called ECW as a third brand for a WWE promotion is practically a fuck you to the original promotion, I would say. I'm glad they closed it down in 2010. Now, here's my last pay-per-view, and it's not a WWE pay-per-view. This is the only pay-per-view that's not affiliated with WWE, and that is Ring of Honor Final Battle from 2012 with the epic ladder match for the ROH World Championship between Kevin Steen and El Generico, known as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, in case some of you don't know. Well, actually, no, El Generico, I think he went back to Mexico. I don't know, but they definitely do have a resemblance. I don't know. I think I already spoiled it. Oh well. But this card was stacked. You had Michael Elgin taking on Roderick Strong, Jay Lethal taking on Rhino. Who else? BJ Whitmer and Rhett Titus taking on Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. Jerry Lynn taking on Mike Bennett. The American Wolves taking on Red Dragon. Adam Cole versus Matt Hardy. Scum versus Caprice Coleman and Cedric Alexander versus the Briscoes. And then the infamous ladder match. When I found this, I probably paid at least $7, $8 on the Ring of Honor website, but if you were to get this on eBay, you could probably find it used at the same price. Definitely a pickup. And between this ladder match and the ladder match they had at Steamwolf for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, this is definitely one of my favorite ladder matches of all time. And you know, wrestling, like if I had to name my top 10 favorite ladder matches, this is definitely on top. Now we go on to the documentaries. Nick Kurtz can definitely agree with me on this one. The Triumph and Tragedy of World Class Championship Wrestling. I still want to get that Australian copy. Nick, if you could send me some info on that, that'd be very much appreciated. But this basically goes into depth with the beginning of World Class, showcasing some of the superstars, and then unfortunately the deaths leading, starting off with Jack Atkinson, and then unfortunately David, Mike, Chris, Kerry, Fritz, and then like Gino Hernandez, which that's still kind of a mystery whether he got murdered or he basically overdosed on cocaine. Definitely a great set. The only thing that I believe they should have included in this set, is Kerry Von Erich taking on Ric Flair for the NWA World Title, which I never even knew that they decided on who would face Ric Flair, and I think it was a coin toss. I think it would have been interesting if we saw Kevin. On to the next documentary, a must. The Rise and Fall of ECW. I believe the runtime on this is 6 hours. Definitely worth it. It just goes through all the stages of just like how the company started, and basically how nobody was getting paid towards the end of ECW, which led to why like guys like Mike Awesome left and Taz, Dudley Boys, because a lot of these guys were just working for free. But definitely one of the best documentaries. If you don't have the DVD, they do have it on the network. Check it out. Another one, this is a favorite of mine. And I think I only say this because I'm a Road Warriors fan. Oops, spoiler. Road Warriors, the the life and death of the most dominant tag team in wrestling history. Basically just shows where they grew up, how they got into the wrestling business, where they got their name from. Goes into depth on the original Legion of Doom and not just Hawk and Animal. Um, all the promotions they jumped to, all the tag team championships that they won, and basically leading to Hawk's struggles with addiction, and unfortunately leading to his death, despite getting clean in 2001 after I think he got diagnosed with like a heart condition. Very sad, but I don't think Animal should have came back in '05. It was cool, but out of all people, why Heidenreich? But you know what? I think that's going to be a question for me to ask him. Is, do you still keep in touch with Heidenreich and Draws? But on to the next documentary. I don't think a lot of people mention this, but Jake the Snake Roberts, Pick Your Poison. Um, this is basically just talking about his addiction and just getting through it, and just um his life growing up, how his father was abusive towards him, and then how he broke into the business. And just basically some of the rivalries that he had between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Sting, how he tried to come back in '96, and they tried to do like they tried to do a storyline based off his addiction with alcohol, and um, it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth the worth having in your collection. I seen this going on eBay right now, brand new, for about $12. Only reason why I say brand new is I'm one of those type of guys who likes to have brand new and not refurbished things, abused things, only because there's a guarantee that it might not work or something's messed up about the DVD. And sometimes I go down the route of buying used stuff, like the NWO Back in Black compilation that I have, the Brian Pillman Loose Cannon DVD, but those are all in flawless condition. Alright, next documentary, Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. Just one of the coolest factions of all time. If it wasn't for the Four Horsemen, you definitely wouldn't have the NWO. You definitely wouldn't have DX, Evolution, Nexus, all these groups. And this is what started it all. This is basically on like the formation of the group, all the members who were recruited, Paul Roma, and yeah, one of my favorite factions of all time. Next is the Ultimate Ric Flair collection. I had gotten this at a Northeast Wrestling show for about $5, brand new, still in the shrink wrap, a couple years back. And the only reason why I say collect this is because this was one of the first 3-disc sets that WWE put out. Running time is 10.5 hours. 10.5 hours of material, including his debut match, Day in the Life of the Four Horsemen, versus Triple H from Raw, with the post-show Ric Flair tribute. All his promos and controversy surrounding his greatest matches versus Harley Race, Dusty Rhodes, Barry Windham, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Terry Funk, Sting, and as well as his 1992 Royal Rumble victory where he won the WWE Championship for the first time. Definitely recommend it. Last and not least, I guess you would say this is my number one for DVDs. And I have said this before, he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Probably one of the best technical wrestlers to ever step foot in the ring. I find him better than Bret. And yes, I think you know where I'm going with this, is Owen Heart of Gold. I'm still looking for the band copy. I would love to have a copy of that. Maybe a possible birthday wish. Great set. Goes through all his matches. Blue Blazer versus Mr. Perfect. Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels for a number one contenders match for the WWE Championship from February 18th of 96. I think that should have been 95, but I could be wrong. WrestleMania 10, obviously Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, one of the best opening matches for WrestleMania of all time. King of the Ring 94 with him versus Razor. They should have included him versus 123 Kid, despite how short that match was. That was an intense technical match. Definitely one of the best matches. Best short matches, I would say. Another match that they should have included in here was when he was the Blue Angel. Yes, the Blue Angel. It was basically a mask that covered his eyes and his mouth. While he still had his gear from Stampede, and he faced Barry Horowitz in a show. It was like a house show, and he was known as the Blue Angel before he was dubbed the Blue Blazer. Definitely a match I would check out. I'll leave a link in the description below on that match. It's a good documentary. A lot of things are left out, like a lot of pictures, and it basically just goes through his career and then unfortunately his death. You could probably get more insight on that with the Heart and Soul DVD and then the Life and Death of Owen Hart if you buy the Wrestling with Shadows DVD, the Bret Hart documentary. It's a good set for what it was, and this DVD was definitely overdue. But overall, one of my favorites. Not because he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but just because he definitely deserved this, and one day hopefully we'll finally see him in the WWE Hall of Fame. So that about wraps it up, everybody. So leave a like, leave a comment down below. Your top 10 favorite DVDs. Any DVD that any wrestling fans should have in their collection, or just your personal favorite. And as always, subscribe. And until next time, check you later.